everyone, Joe Brady here, and I want to talk about adjusting 3 different custom settings on the 758 Sekonic Lightmeter to make it more efficient for when you're doing landscape photography. Now there's 3 custom settings we're going to adjust, number 1, number 3, and number 17. It just so happens that when you bought the meter, there was a little sticker card you could put on the inside of your battery case. And I can't tell you how many people I've run into that never knew it was there and then ended up throwing it away. So if you want to get a list of what the meter custom functions are, it's actually in the manual, which you can download on Sekonic.com. It happens to be on page 50 of the manual. But there's really 3 we're concerned about, so let's go over those. Now the first one is the function of the ISO 2 button. Now this is really a holdover from the days when photographers used Polaroids, and what we want to do is change the ISO 2 button to be a filter compensation factor. So first, how do you go into the custom settings? It's very simple. I have the meter powered off. What you do is hold in the mode button and then push on the power button. And when you do that, it starts up, and in the upper right hand corner of the display it says CS. Now 01 is, what does the ISO 2 button do? Now if you leave it on 0, 01 means, well, the ISO 2 button will just give you another ISO setting. We want filter compensation. And to cycle through the choices, you just tap the mode button. So I'm going to hit the mode button once, and it changes to 011. That sets the ISO 2 button to be a filter compensation factor. And that's very handy when we're using filters such as polarizers, ND filters, or maybe even most importantly, using the spot meter to meter off of our clouds and compensate for those. So I turn that off, turn it back on, and now the ISO 2 button is set for filter compensation. And if I hold in the ISO 2 button, I've already got mine set. If you hold in the ISO 2 button, I can see up in the upper right hand corner here it says 3.0, and that is how many stops I want to open up my highlights when I take a spot reading off of the clouds. We'll explore that in more detail in another video. So we've got our ISO 2 button set to our filter compensation. Next, we want to set between having the display give us thirds of a stop or tenths of a stop. Now when you're running the DTS software, you want to make sure you're in tenths. Also in a studio situation, when you're measuring the lights, you probably want to be in tenths. But out in the field, we want the meter to give us the same numbers that match up to our camera, and our cameras are in third stops. So that's going to be custom setting number 3. So again, I'll hold in the mode button, power on the meter, and in this case, it shows me that 011. What I need to do is spin the jog wheel, in this case counterclockwise, to 03. And what I want 03 to be, and again, it says it right on the page if you want to look it up, 03, 0 is full stops or tenths of a stop. We want it to be a third of a stop, which is setting 1. So we hit the mode button and cycle around until you see number 1. There is a number 2 thing here, and number 2 is for half a stop. I have no idea why you'd want to do that. So thirds of a stop there. Again, you can power off the meter, and then when you turn it back on and take a reading, I'll just take one as I'm sitting right here. I take a reading and I get 60th of a second at 4.5. Now to know that I'm in third stops, if I spin the dial, my next number is 5, and then again 5, 6. So when you see that 4, 5, 5, 5, 6, 6, 3, then you know that you're in thirds of a stop. So the last setting I want to change on the 758 is what happens with the function of these 2 buttons, the memory button and the measure button, which is on the right hand side as you're looking at the front of the meter. Now the default is that the measure button will take all your measurements regardless of which mode you're in. I find it easier to switch them, and this is custom setting 17. So again, I'll hold in the mode button, press power, and I'm going to flip once clockwise to 17. Now if I start on 0, which is the default, 0 is this button is the measure all the time. However, when you're doing spot metering and you're looking through the viewfinder here, sometimes getting your thumb up to the measure button, particularly if it's in the winter and you're wearing gloves, can be a little bit difficult. So it's handy to have the spot meter measurement happen from this button. And there are 2 choices. There's number 1, and what that does is it swaps the measure button with the memory button, so that this little gray button on the side, which is more like a trigger, becomes your measure button all the time. What I like is custom setting too, so I'll cycle through. I'll hit once, twice on the mode button till I see 17.2. Then if I power off and power back on, that is an auto switching. So now when I'm taking an incident reading, if I use the standard measure button on the right hand side, I get my measurement. If I flip the viewfinder to spot reading mode, now when I look through the viewfinder, this button on the opposite side acts like a trigger, and that becomes the way that I'll take my readings. Very handy. It automatically switches back and forth based on what's here. So now we've set custom 1, which turned our ISO 2 button into a filter compensation. Custom setting 3 changed our readings from tenths of a stop to thirds of a stop, so that the readings we get mirror the way our camera tells us the aperture is set. And then custom 17, which switches which button actually takes your reading based on if you're doing an ambient reading or a spot reading. Now your 758DR is ready for the landscape. Get out there and start shooting. Hope this helped. Hope to see you online again soon. Until then, be well. Bye-bye.